Crypto and the stock market are both at all-time highs. We got crypto week coming up. We got new treasuries buying Bitcoin and ETH. Guys, welcome back to another macro video where we cover all things macro. Today, I'm just going to give you guys my updated view of the markets. We're going to look at some charts. We're going to go over some key things that's happening in the market. So as always, none of this is ever financial advice. Let's jump straight into it. So to start, like I've been talking about for the past few weeks, this is crypto week. Down tweet it. Happy Crypto Week. The House will soon vote on a tremendous bill to make America the undisputed #1 leader in digital assets. Nobody does it better. The Genius Act is going to put our great nation light years ahead of China, Europe, and all others who are just trying to endlessly catch up, but they just can't do it. I can hear him saying this. It's so funny. Digital assets are the future, and we are leading by a lot. Get the first vote done this afternoon. All Republicans should vote yes. This is our moment. Digital assets, genius, clarity. It's all part of making America great again, bigger and better than ever before. We are leading the world and will work hard with the Senate and the House to get even more legislation on this passed. It's so funny seeing him doing a 180 on crypto when he was saying how it was a scam and how it was like affecting the dollar years ago. He either A, got smart and realized how transformational the technology is and how it could actually be good for our country, or he could just be trying to pump his own bags. Either way, it's good for us. So just to quickly recap, we've been talking about this for weeks. The Genius Act is basically a bill that allows stable coins to be issued by approved financial institutions, and if it gets passed by the House, it goes straight to Trump's desk. We already know he's going to pass it. The Anti-CBDC Act, if it passes, it goes straight to the Senate. And this is so that, governments can't just have outright control over our currencies and being able to tell us what we can and can't do with their money. I really hope this one passes because CBDCs are scary. And the same with the Clarity Act. If it gets passed from the House, it goes straight to the Senate, then to the president. And this is basically going to draw a clear line on if crypto assets are securities or commodities so that they can be governed by securities, the SEC, commodities, the CFTC. So huge week for crypto, and I believe this has a lot to do with why the market is pumping. So if we head over to CoinMarketCap, you still see we have Bitcoin dominance at 63% with ETH at 10%. Last week it was around 9%. And guys, here's the huge thing, and we're going to look at the Bitcoin chart in a minute. It's been creating all-time highs for like the past 4 days straight. We had $2 billion days, meaning there were 2 days where there was over $1 billion in inflows buying of Bitcoin ETFs. We had July 11th and we had 1,029,600,000, and then July 10th we had 1.1 billion in inflows, 2 days back to back. So that explains why the price is moving up. And if we look at Ethereum ETFs, the buying volume hasn't been as high. We got Ethereum finally over 3K. Again, we're going to look at that chart here in a bit. We're seeing some pretty good inflows on the ETF, 259 million, 200 million, 383 million, 211 million. So we've had over $1 billion in Ethereum accumulated within the past week as well. If we look at the fear and greed index, we're at 70% greed. The more we are in greed, the more you should be taking profits. As we get to around this area here, you definitely want to consider taking some off the table, but I still think we have a ways to go. I'm not selling any of my ETH until we see all-time highs. All right, let's look at some charts. We got the central bank balance sheet still dropping, but it looks like it's been consolidating. So it looks like the central bank has made a pause on offloading their balance sheet, right? It's been consolidating sideways for a little bit here, but it's not bad. We look at the M2 money supply, we're still hovering around all-time highs, and as we've been talking about for weeks, Bitcoin's price tracks the M2 money supply and the liquidity that's in the market. It's usually lagging around 3 months. So as this continues to rise, you can expect Bitcoin and other risk-on assets to rise with it. You got gold consolidating, and this makes sense because inflation has been under control for a while. So this is more of a hedge against that. I'm surprised it's still this high. And then you have the S&P 500 put in a new high this week, right? It's consolidating around all-time highs. I would expect it to come back down and retest the previous all-time highs of support, probably consolidate there. And if it takes off again, that's just further confirmation that we're going to be in a bull market probably for a while. Got the Dow Jones hovering around all-time high areas, a little lower actually. The NASDAQ put in a new all-time high. You got Apple still down. It's been trending upward lately. There's a lot of talk going around at Apple. A lot of people are calling for the firing of Tim Cook. He was the successor after the late great Steve Jobs. And the critique is that Apple needs new products. Like they came out with this stand. They had like a presentation, and Apple is known for like when they have a presentation, they unveil a new product. They have like evangelists there. They have like this tripod stand thing for an iPad or something that they're selling for like $1,000. And when they unveiled it, the crowd was really, really quiet. So they are calling for a CEO who's a product guy. Tim Cook is more of a operations guy, but he did help Apple become the first company to reach $1 and $2 trillion, or I think $3 trillion too. But then Nvidia was the first to hit $4 trillion or something like that, if I remember correctly. Yeah, Apple's dealing with some issues right now. All right, let's get to the good stuff. Bitcoin put in a new high of $123,000, guys. So we are currently in uncharted territory. So Bitcoin is going to find support somewhere. I'd imagine it's probably going to come back down to, between 115 to 111 and make previous all-time highs support, right? Like it was bouncing off of this and it was struggling to get above it for almost a year, right? So, the market likes to move between ceilings and floors. So now that this isn't resistance anymore, I'd imagine that it'll want to make this support. We'll see. Here's something interesting about Bitcoin. We've been talking about how companies are going to eventually be putting Bitcoin on their balance sheet and using it as a treasury asset. Well, now there are 148 public companies with Bitcoin as a treasury asset, and accumulatively they hold over $103 billion worth of Bitcoin at current prices. So if we look at this website, you can look at the Bitcoin treasury list of companies. You can look at the list of companies and it shows how many Bitcoin they're holding. MicroStrategy is ahead by a long shot. You got Tesla still holding some Bitcoin there in the top 10, right? 11,000 Bitcoin. And you can see, they kind of index, where they're holding it, how they're holding it. So you have 859 Bitcoin in treasuries. You got over $1 billion in ETFs, some in smart contracts and exchanges. Some are being held by private companies, and you even got a good amount being held by governments, which is interesting. One thing to note, though, is like with these treasury companies, some of them are using leverage, right? And the casinos, that's how they make money, off of liquidating. So some of these companies are going to experience a liquidation. A lot of them have been buying, as Bitcoin has been pretty high. Speaking of liquidations, when Bitcoin goes towards all-time highs, you have traders who think it's going to come down, so they start to short it. And the process of shorting involves using borrowed funds to buy Bitcoin and sell it with the hopes that it'll drop. And again, when they buy the Bitcoin, they have to repay the amount of Bitcoin that they borrow, not the dollar amount, but the quantity. So if you borrow 1 Bitcoin and short it, you have to pay back 1 Bitcoin to get your money back, right? Whatever the price of that 1 Bitcoin is. So you buy the Bitcoin, you borrow money to buy Bitcoin, and then you sell it with the hopes that it'll drop. So like, for example, if 1 Bitcoin is 123K and it comes back down to 100K, then you get to buy Bitcoin at 100K, you get to pay it back, and then you get to keep the difference. But, shorting can be a risky game because you can have infinite losses, right? If Bitcoin goes to $1 million, then you owe a lot of money, right? So when Bitcoin hit the new all-time high of 123K, it liquidated $723 million in shorts in just 24 hours. And if it reaches 125K, another 1.1 billion in shorts will be liquidated. So the more the price rises, the more shorts that people put in, because people are thinking at any time Bitcoin can drop. So I wouldn't be surprised if that is the cause of the bull market, or at least Bitcoin dropping precipitously, like all these treasuries borrowing money to lever up on Bitcoin. The time to use leverage is when the market is in the red, not when things are going extremely high. Moving on, if we look at ETH, we can see ETH is doing really well. It's made new recent all-time highs. It's at $3,000, $3,088. Hasn't been at this price since February of 2025. And you see we have this cross right here. I'm always talking about the cross. So when the 62 EMA is above the 200, then that is a good sign. Anytime we have the orange line over this blue line, you can see the markets are in bullish conditions. And when ETH went on this crazy run from 1,500 all the way up to 4,000, we had this orange line on top of this blue, right? So the fact that this is crossing is telling me that we probably have more upside to go. And if we zoom out, ETH has been on this trend line since 2022. We were hovering around it, and now it looks like we're back on track. I wouldn't be surprised if ETH came back down to, around 2,700 or so. It's not just going to go straight up, most likely. Like even when it did this crazy run from all the way down here, like there were huge drops, right? Came up here, huge drops. came back up, put in an all-time high. You know what I mean? So there will be dips as new tips are reached, but it's a good sign that we're back on this trend line, and you know, we have all this good stuff happening in the market. Also, you have more companies adding ETH to their treasury as well. It's 11 public companies that has ETH as a treasury asset, and 5 of them have surfaced in the past month. And same thing, you can see the index. So you have treasuries, blockchains, Web3 companies, a few public companies, $448 million worth of ETH. And then the government is also holding some ETH as well, or governments, I should say. And if you scroll down here, you can kind of see the list of companies that are holding Ethereum as a treasury asset. And I definitely expect this trend to continue as well. If we look at the total crypto market cap, we're at 3.67 trillion, most of which is being led by Bitcoin and ETH, right? I want us to get back inside of this trend line. We're starting to hover up in it, like it's peeking its head above water. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if it came back down to around the 3.4 trillion before it, you know, got up in this trend line again and starts to continue through it. But, you know, it was a long, I'm not going to say bear market, but bear market for altcoins. So things are finally starting to turn around. And last chart I want to look at, this is the total crypto market cap excluding Bitcoin. You know, it's not often I bring up chart patterns, but this is just a clean, they call it a cup and handle, right? You see the big cup and you see the handle, and this has been in place since 2022, right? You have this big cup and we came up here, and it's important to look at this chart for altcoin season because the word altcoin means alternative coin. So any coin other than Bitcoin is an altcoin, right? Even Ethereum's an altcoin. So this area right here, this $1.33 trillion level has been a huge support level, like right here, right here, right here. The market has had a hard time staying above it. So we want to see the market get above this, you know, test it as support for a while. And then we want to see this go to all-time highs. I'm expecting it to go to 1.67 trillion just because of the money just because of the liquidity that's flowing into Bitcoin and that will flow into ETH. The higher that Bitcoin goes, the more people can sell for altcoins, right? So this altcoin season is going to be crazier, especially with everything that's happening with the president. So this would be 121% increase. And that doesn't mean, you know, an altcoin will increase 121%. It's the whole altcoin market. So it's going to be some altcoins that has thousands of percentages an increase. And I like to think that we've identified a few of them through our research. So guys, the time is finally here. The 4-year cycle theory is still at play. The last major bull market was 2021. We are in 2025. So this year, 2025, and next year, 2026, life-changing gains will be made in crypto. And I'm gonna do my best to stay on top of them and try to identify the best opportunities and give you guys all the information that you need to make the best decisions for your portfolios. All right, so with that, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys next week for the next macro update. Take care and trade safe.